They say that if a star slips across the night sky and falls to earth, any wish made at that very moment will come true. But no one knew that sometimes, when a star falls to earth, it can change not just one wish, but the whole world. One night, everyone in a quiet village was asleep. Everyone except little Henry. Henry was sitting beside his bed, looking at the sky through the window. He loved watching the stars. Every night, he tried to find the bright star in the sky. Suddenly, one star twinkled. Henry narrowed his eyes and looked at it. The star grew brighter and brighter. The star broke away from the sky and fell downward like a streak of light. Henry jumped to his feet in surprise.
A shooting star!
He looked out into the yard to see where the light had fallen, and he froze. The star had fallen right into the yard of his house. Henry immediately ran outside. A small golden light was glowing among the grass. As he came closer, he realized that it really was a star. But it wasn't huge and far away like the stars in the sky. This star was tiny. Henry could even fit it between both of his hands. Henry carefully picked it up. The star glowed softly between his fingers.
How did you get here?
Then he remembered something he had heard since he was little.
When a star shoots across the sky, make a wish.
Henry closed his eyes, but before saying his wish, he thought.
I wonder if this really works.
The star flashed once. Henry took it as an answer. He ran inside, brought back a small glass jar, and carefully placed the star inside. The whole jar filled with golden light. Henry smiled in amazement, and so his strange adventure began. The next morning, Henry remembered a question he had been thinking about all night. What would Earth look like if it stopped spinning for a moment? He picked up the jar.
I wish Earth would stop spinning for one day.
The star flashed, and the wish came true. At first, nothing seemed strange. Then Henry looked up at the sky. The clouds seemed strangely frozen in place. The movement of the wind had changed, but the strangest thing was the oceans. Because as Earth spins, the atmosphere, the seas, and all living things are also moving along with it. When the planet suddenly stops, however, they do not stop immediately. Henry saw the trees in the distance bending strongly in the wind. The movement of the seas began to change too. The smile disappeared from Henry's face.
I just wanted to see what it would look like. Make it go back.
The star flashed. Earth began spinning again. The wind became calm. Henry took a deep breath. That night, for the first time, he understood. Some things may be invisible, but they are very important to life. A few days later, Henry sat in front of the jar again. This time, an even stranger idea came to his mind.
I wish all the seas were in the sky.
The star flashed. Suddenly, enormous masses of blue water appeared across the sky. It was as if the oceans had risen into the heavens. Henry stared in amazement. Fish were swimming through the water. Sunlight passed through the water in the sky. It looked magnificent. But before long, Henry noticed something else. The rivers no longer reached the seas. The water along the shores began to disappear. The environment where sea creatures live had changed. Plants that depend on the rivers also began to dry out.
I only wanted to see an ocean in the sky. Put it back.
The star flashed. The oceans in the sky returned to Earth. The rivers continued flowing. Henry no longer looked at his wishes the way he used to, because he had realized changing the place of something also means changing all the connections it has with everything around it. One night, Henry went outside and looked at the moon. The moon was so far away. Henry had always wanted to see its craters up close. He picked up the jar.
I wish the moon were a little closer to Earth.
The star flashed. The moon slowly began to grow larger. Henry stared at the sky in amazement. The moon now looked enormous. Its surface could be seen clearly. Henry spun around with joy, but after a while he noticed the movement of the seas beginning to change. As the moon moved closer to Earth, the effect of its gravity became stronger. The rise and fall of the TARDIS became much greater than before. Henry realized that this was no longer a beautiful sight. He immediately ran toward the jar.
Put it back!
The star flashed. The moon moved away again. The seas became calm. Henry looked up at the sky.
So the moon isn't just a beautiful light we see at night.
Henry placed the jar in front of him. He had made 3 wishes. 3 times the world had changed, and 3 times he had taken his wish back. Henry finally understood. Everything in the world was connected. Earth was spinning. The moon remained at its distance. The world wasn't perfect, but it had its own balance. Henry looked at the jar. The star was no longer as bright as before. When Henry noticed this, his heart sank.
Are you tired too?
The star glowed softly. At that moment, Henry understood. This star had not come to Earth to stay. It needed to return to its place in the sky. Henry carried the jar into the yard. He went to the place where the star had first fallen. Then he opened the lid of the jar. The little star slowly rose out of the jar. Henry reached out his hand and looked at it one last time.
I won't make any more wishes.
The star rose toward the sky, and finally it found its place in the sky. Suddenly, a bright light appeared in the darkness of the night. Henry smiled. He now knew that changing the world didn't always mean making better. Sometimes the greatest miracle is learning to appreciate everything just as it is. That night, Henry lay in his yard and looked up at the sky. The star looked brighter than ever. And perhaps from that day on people continued to make wishes whenever they saw a shooting star. But Henry knew one thing. Not every wish deserves to come true, and some wishes teach us not what we want, but what we don't need.